My grandmother used to say something strange every Christmas morning. She'd stand at the stove, stirring a pot that smelled like cinnamon and cloves, and she'd whisper, "This is how we remember who we are." I didn't understand it then. I was just a kid waiting for presents. But now I get it. Because the recipes our grandparents made weren't just food, they were survival. They were love letters written in flour and sugar. They were the dishes that got families through the Depression, through wars, through winters so cold the only warmth came from the kitchen. And somewhere along the way, we forgot them. We traded hand-cranked cranberry relish for the canned stuff. We replaced real eggnog with cartons from the store. We lost the recipes that made the holidays feel like home. But not today. Today we're bringing them back. Every single one. And I promise you, by the time we get to number 25, you're going to understand exactly what my grandmother meant. Let's start with a dish that shocked everyone who saw it. 1. Ambrosia salad. They called it food of the gods. And when your grandmother pulled it out of the icebox on Christmas morning, you believed it. Because ambrosia salad wasn't just fruit and coconut mixed together, it was magic. Oranges that had been peeled by hand the night before, coconut that came in thick, sweet flakes, miniature marshmallows that were still a luxury in the 1920s, and whipped cream, real whipped cream, folded in until everything turned into clouds. Your great-grandmother made this because fresh oranges in December meant something back then. It meant the family had money for citrus shipped from Florida. It meant Christmas was real. She'd serve it in her best crystal bowl, the one that survived the move from the old country. And every spoonful tasted like winter sunshine. Kids would fight over the last scoop. Adults would close their eyes when they ate it, like they were tasting something holy. Because in a time when fruit was seasonal and sugar was expensive, this salad was a gift. It was proof that even in hard times there could still be sweetness. But the next dish, it was the one that made guests stop talking. 2. Crown roast of pork. When your grandfather carried this to the table, the whole room went silent. Because a crown roast of pork wasn't just dinner, it was a statement. Picture this: a circle of pork chops, standing up tall, bones Frenched and tied together like a crown. The center stuffed with apples, onions, and sage, the top of each bone wrapped in foil so it wouldn't burn, and the whole thing roasted until the fat turned golden and crispy. This was Depression-era royalty. Families saved for months to afford this roast. Butchers knew how to tie it special, and when it came out of the oven, it smelled like every Christmas memory you ever had. Your grandmother would carve it at the table, slicing between each rib, and every person got their own chop, with stuffing spooned right onto their plate. It wasn't just meat, it was dignity. It was showing the world that even when times were hard, your family could still sit down to something beautiful. People took pictures of this roast before cameras were common at dinner tables, because some meals are too important to forget. 3. Tomato aspic. Your grandmother served this on her fanciest plate, and you thought she'd lost her mind, because tomato aspic looked like someone took tomato juice, mixed it with gelatin, and poured it into a mold, which is exactly what it was. But here's what you didn't know. In the 1950s, this was fancy. This was what you made when you wanted to impress the neighbors, when you wanted to show you had taste, when you wanted your holiday table to look like it came straight out of Better Homes and Gardens magazine. Your grandmother would unmold it onto a bed of lettuce. She'd garnish it with a dollop of mayonnaise, and she'd slice it like it was expensive cheese. It tasted like cold tomato soup in Jell-O form. Salty, tangy, completely bizarre by today's standards. But back then, women traded recipes for the perfect aspic. They argued about whether to add celery or olives. they displayed it like art. Because gelatin molds meant you had a refrigerator, and having a refrigerator meant you'd made it. This wasn't just food, it was proof your family was modern. 4. Oyster. Dressing down south, they had a rule. No oysters in the stuffing meant it wasn't really Christmas, and your great-grandmother took that rule seriously. She'd buy fresh oysters from the fishmonger on Christmas Eve. She'd shuck them herself, saving every drop of that salty liquor. Then she'd fold them into cornbread dressing with celery, onions, and sage. When it baked, the oysters would disappear into the bread, leaving behind little pockets of ocean flavor. Briny, rich, completely unexpected if you'd never tasted it before. Yankees thought it was strange, but Southerners knew the truth. Oysters were cheap back then, cheaper than sausage, and they turned plain cornbread into something special. Your grandfather would take a bite and close his eyes, because this dressing tasted like his childhood, like his mother's kitchen, like the Carolina coast where his people came from. Families passed down their oyster dressing recipes like heirlooms, and if you got invited to Christmas dinner, you hoped they made it, because once you tasted it, store-bought stuffing never hit the same. 5. Waldorf salad. The Waldorf Astoria Hotel invented this in 1893. By the time your grandmother made it, it was the salad that proved you had class. Crisp apples, celery, walnuts, all chopped into perfect little cubes, then dressed with real mayonnaise and served on a bed of lettuce. Sounds simple, right? But here's what made it special. In the 1930s, fresh apples in winter were still semi-rare. Walnuts were expensive. And mayonnaise? That was something you made by hand with egg yolks and oil, whisking until your arm hurt. Your grandmother would make this for Christmas dinner and New Year's Day. She'd use her best apples, usually red delicious because they looked pretty. She'd toast the walnuts to bring out their flavor. Every bite was crunchy, sweet, creamy, refreshing after all that heavy holiday food. Doctors back then actually told people to eat Waldorf salad for their health. They called it a scientific salad. Your great-aunt probably made it every holiday for 40 years straight, because when you found a recipe that made you look sophisticated, you didn't let it go. 6. Divinity Candy. Your grandmother made this on dry winter days only, because humidity could ruin everything. Divinity Candy was sugar, corn syrup, and egg whites whipped into stiff white peaks that looked like snow clouds. She'd add pecans or walnuts, sometimes vanilla. Then she'd drop spoonfuls onto waxed paper and let them set. When you bit into one, it dissolved on your tongue like sweet, nutty air. But making it was dangerous. The sugar had to reach exactly 260 degrees. Too hot, and it turned hard as rock. Too cool, and it never set. Your grandmother would test it by dropping a bit into cold water, watching to see if it formed a hard ball. She made this for church bazaars, for neighbor gifts, for the cookie tray that sat on the sideboard all through Christmas. Kids would sneak pieces when she wasn't looking. Adults would eat one and immediately reach for another, because divinity tasted like celebration. Like someone cared enough to stand at a hot stove, stirring boiling sugar just to make you something sweet. In the Depression, this candy was made with love and whatever nuts the family could afford. 7. Fruitcake. Everyone jokes about fruitcake now, but your great-grandmother would have slapped the table if she heard you mock it, because her fruitcake wasn't the dense, neon-colored brick you see in cartoons. It was dark, rich, soaked in brandy for weeks, packed with real candied fruit, nuts, and spices that filled the whole house with the smell of Christmas. She'd bake it in November, wrap it in cheesecloth soaked with whiskey, store it in a tin, and every week until Christmas she'd unwrap it and brush on more liquor. By December 25th, That cake was potent. One slice could make your uncle tipsy. One bite tasted like raisins, citrus, cinnamon, and history all mixed together. This cake traveled through the mail to soldiers overseas. It lasted for months without refrigeration. And here's the truth nobody tells you. When fruitcake was made right, with good ingredients and enough booze, it was incredible. Your grandmother would slice it thin, serve it with coffee, and people would ask for seconds. Because this wasn't just dessert, it was a time capsule. 8. Eggnog from scratch. Your grandfather made this with raw eggs and didn't care what anyone thought, because back then, eggnog wasn't something you bought in a carton. It was something you made, with eggs, heavy cream, sugar, nutmeg, and enough bourbon to make the pastor blush. He'd separate the eggs himself, whip the whites until they formed stiff peaks, beat the yolks with sugar until they turned pale yellow, fold in the cream, add the liquor, then fold in those egg whites last. The result? Thick, frothy, rich enough to coat your tongue, strong enough to warm you from the inside out. He'd serve it in his mother's cut crystal punch bowl, with a ladle and a sprinkle of fresh nutmeg on top of each cup. Kids got a version without the bourbon, but they always tried to sneak the adult stuff. People argued about the right way to make eggnog. Some families used rum, some used brandy, some used all three. But everyone agreed on one thing. Store-bought eggnog was an insult. This drink was Christmas in a cup, and your grandfather made it the same way every year until the day he died. 9. Cranberry orange relish. Your grandmother had a hand-crank food grinder bolted to the kitchen counter, and on Christmas Eve, that grinder came out for one reason: cranberry relish. She'd wash fresh cranberries, peel oranges, cut the oranges into chunks, leaving some of the peel on for bitterness. Then she'd feed everything through that grinder, cranking the handle while ruby-red pulp came out the other side. She'd mix in sugar, let it sit overnight in the icebox, and by Christmas dinner those raw cranberries had released their juice and turned everything into a bright, tangy, sweet and sour relish that made your mouth wake up. This wasn't the canned cranberry sauce that came out in a perfect log. This was alive, tart, fresh, with chunks of orange peel that bit back. You'd put a spoonful on your turkey. It would cut through all that rich, heavy food like a knife. Suddenly your taste buds worked again. Kids hated it at first. Too sour, too strong. But by the time they were teenagers, they'd load their plates with extra. Your grandmother never measured anything. She'd taste as she went, adding more sugar if the cranberries were too tart that year. 10. Parker House rolls. These rolls made grown men weep, not because they were sad, because the rolls were that good. Parker House rolls came from a Boston hotel in the 1870s. By the Depression, every grandmother worth her salt knew how to make them. And your grandmother's version? Golden, buttery, folded over like little pillows, so soft you could pull them apart with your fingers. She'd start the dough in the morning, let it rise twice, roll it out, cut circles, brush each circle with melted butter, fold it in half, let it rise again, then bake until the tops turned bronze. When they came out of the oven, she'd brush them with even more butter. The smell filled the whole house, yeasty, sweet, rich. Your grandfather would eat 3 before dinner even started. Your aunt would sneak one while setting the table. Kids would fight over the ones from the middle of the pan because those stayed softest. These rolls were proof that your grandmother knew how to bake. Proof that even when money was tight, there could still be abundance. People begged for her recipe. She'd give it to them. But somehow, theirs never turned out quite the same. 11. Green bean casserole. This one's younger than your parents. Campbell's Soup Company invented it in 1955. A test kitchen employee named Dorcas Riley mixed green beans, cream of mushroom soup, and fried onions together. She was trying to create a recipe that busy housewives could make quickly. She had no idea she'd just created a legend. Your mother made this every single Christmas. Green beans from a can, cream of mushroom soup from a can, French's fried onions from a can. Everything mixed together and baked until it bubbled. It wasn't fancy, it wasn't complicated, it wasn't even made from scratch. But it was Christmas. That first bite was creamy, salty, crunchy on top from those fried onions. It tasted like every holiday you'd ever had, like comfort, like tradition. Food snobs turned their noses up at it. "It's all processed," they'd say. But your family didn't care, because this casserole showed up at every holiday table from 1955 forward. It was dependable, easy, and everyone loved it. 3 generations of women made the exact same recipe. No changes, no improvements needed. 12. Sweet potato casserole with marshmallows. Southerners will fight you over this one, because up north, people think sweet potato casserole is dessert. But down south, it's a side dish, and anyone who says different doesn't understand the assignment. Your grandmother would boil sweet potatoes until they were soft, mash them with butter, brown sugar, cinnamon, and a splash of vanilla. Spread the mixture in a baking dish. Then, and this is the part that made Yankees confused, she'd cover the whole top with miniature marshmallows. When it baked, those marshmallows would toast, turn golden, get slightly crispy on the peaks while staying gooey underneath. You'd take a bite and get sweet potato sweetness mixed with burnt sugar marshmallow. It was Thanksgiving and Christmas on one fork. Some families added pecans on top. Some made it with orange juice instead of vanilla. Some put the marshmallows under the sweet potatoes, which was chaos. But every family had their version, and every family swore theirs was the right one. Your grandmother served this next to the turkey, next to the ham, right there with the green beans and the stuffing. 13th, mincemeat pie. Modern people hear mincemeat and think it's just dried fruit. Your great-grandmother would laugh at that, because real mincemeat pie, the kind she made, had actual meat in it. Beef suet, sometimes venison, mixed with apples, raisins, currants, citrus peel, brandy, and enough spices to cover up the fact that you were eating meat in a dessert. This recipe came from medieval England, when refrigeration didn't exist, when people preserved meat by mixing it with sugar, alcohol, and spices. By the time it got to your great-grandmother's kitchen, mincemeat pie was tradition. She'd make it for Christmas and no other time. She'd let the filling age in a crock in the cellar, where the flavors would marry for weeks. When she baked it, the whole house smelled like Christmas spice and something mysterious. You'd take a bite and get sweet, then savory, then the burn of brandy, then cinnamon. Your brain couldn't quite figure out what it was tasting. Some people loved it, some people hated it. Nobody was neutral about mincemeat pie. By the 1960s, most people switched to meatless versions. Too weird for modern tastes. 14. Plum pudding. This pudding had no plums in it, and it wasn't really pudding. But your British great-grandmother didn't care about your confusion. She made it every Christmas like her mother did, like her grandmother did, like every woman in her family did since before anyone could remember. Plum pudding was dark, dense, packed with dried fruits, suet, breadcrumbs, eggs, and enough brandy to make it flammable. She'd mix it together on Stir-Up Sunday, the last Sunday before Advent, and every family member had to stir and make a wish. Then she'd pack it into a pudding basin, cover it, steam it for 8 hours, On Christmas Day, she'd steam it again for 2 more hours. Then she'd unmold it onto her best platter, pour brandy over the top, light it on fire. The whole table would gasp as blue flames danced across the pudding. When the fire died, she'd cut slices, dense, moist, tasting like every Christmas spice you could imagine. She'd serve it with hard sauce, butter and sugar whipped together with more brandy. This wasn't a dessert you ate casually. This was ceremony. This was bringing the old country into your American kitchen. 15. Ribbon gelatine salad. Your aunt spent 2 days making this. 2 days. Because ribbon gelatin salad wasn't just Jell-O, it was architecture. Layers of different colored gelatin, each one set separately, creating stripes of red, green, and white stacked in a mold. She'd make the first layer, usually lime Jell-O, pour it in the mold, wait for it to set, then make a cream cheese layer by mixing lemon Jell-O with cream cheese and evaporated milk. Pour that on top, wait for it to set, then raspberry Jell-O, then another cream layer, then more lime. By the time she was done, that mold had 7 layers, 7 perfect ribbons of color. When she unmolded it onto a platter, people would actually applaud. Because this wasn't just food, this was art. This was proof your aunt had time, skill, and dedication. It tasted like sweet, fruity Jell-O with creamy breaks between each layer. Kids loved it. Adults took pictures of it. And every slice showed off all those perfect stripes. Your aunt never wrote the recipe down. She just knew it. She'd made it so many times, she could do it in her sleep. 16. Creamed onions. Half the family loved these. Half the family wouldn't touch them with a fork. There was no middle ground on creamed onions. Your grandmother would peel tiny pearl onions, dozens of them, until her eyes watered. She'd boil them until they were tender. Then she'd make a white sauce from butter, flour, and milk. She'd fold those onions into the sauce, add salt, pepper, and a pinch of nutmeg. The result? Soft, sweet onions swimming in silky cream sauce. People who loved them would eat a whole bowl. They'd say the onions were mild and buttery. They'd say the sauce was comfort in a spoon. People who hated them would push them to the edge of their plate and glare. But your grandmother didn't care about the haters. She made creamed onions every Christmas because she loved them, because her mother made them, because this was a church supper classic that deserved respect. She'd serve them in a crystal bowl with a silver spoon, fancy treatment for humble onions, and the lovers would come back for seconds while the haters loaded up on sweet potato casserole instead. This dish taught you a life lesson. Not everyone has to like what you make. 17. Boiled custard. In the South, Christmas morning meant boiled custard, not eggnog. Custard. Your grandmother would heat milk in a double boiler, beat egg yolks with sugar, slowly temper the eggs into the hot milk, stirring constantly so they wouldn't scramble. Cook it low and slow until it thickened enough to coat the back of a spoon. Then she'd add vanilla. Let it cool. Serve it ice cold in little glass cups. It tasted like melted vanilla ice cream. Sweet, custardy, rich. Some people drank it straight. Some people poured it over pound cake. Some people added a splash of bourbon when your grandmother wasn't looking. This wasn't a northern thing. This was Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina. This was what you drank while opening presents. Store-bought eggnog couldn't touch it, because boiled custard was smooth. No chunks, no spices, just pure, sweet vanilla cream that tasted like childhood. Your grandmother made it in a huge pot because everyone wanted some. Cousins, neighbors, the pastor who stopped by. And if there were leftovers, you had it for breakfast the next day, because custard for breakfast was basically ice cream. 18. Peppermint bark. Your mother made this in a jelly roll pan the week before Christmas. Peppermint bark wasn't ancient, it wasn't passed down through generations, but by the 1980s it was everywhere. She'd melt dark chocolate, spread it thin on a parchment-lined pan, let it set. Then melt white chocolate. Spread that on top. Crush candy canes with a rolling pin, letting you help because you loved smashing things. Sprinkle those peppermint pieces all over while the white chocolate was still soft. When it hardened, she'd break it into jagged pieces. Every bite was sweet white chocolate, bitter dark chocolate, and sharp peppermint crunch. It was Christmas in your mouth. She'd pack it in tins, give it to neighbors, bring it to cookie exchanges, keep a hidden stash in the freezer for when she needed emergency chocolate. Kids fought over the pieces with the most peppermint. Adults loved how easy it was to make. And here's the secret. Peppermint bark tasted expensive, like something from a fancy chocolate shop, but it cost almost nothing to make. This was the recipe your mother shared with everyone, the one she never gate-kept, because the best traditions are the ones you spread around. 19. Wassail. Your grandfather made this in a huge pot on the stove. Wassail was hot, spiced, apple-based, and it filled the whole house with the smell of cinnamon, cloves, and citrus. He'd combine apple cider, orange juice, lemon juice, and pineapple juice in his biggest pot. Add cinnamon sticks, whole cloves, star anise, brown sugar, let it simmer for hours. By the time guests arrived, the house smelled like a Christmas tree farm mixed with an apple orchard. He'd ladle it into mugs. Sometimes he'd add a splash of rum for the adults, and everyone would wrap their hands around those hot mugs and breathe in the steam. Wassail was an Old English tradition. Carolers used to drink it while singing door to door. By the time it got to America, it was the drink you served at holiday parties. One sip warmed you from your throat to your stomach. Sweet, spiced, fruity, like drinking a holiday candle, but in a good way. Your grandfather made extra so people could take thermoses home. Because wassail tasted even better the next day after all those spices had really settled in, this wasn't fancy. This was just apples and spices and thyme. 20. Persimmon pudding. Your great-grandmother knew the rule. Never pick persimmons until after the first frost, because unripe persimmons would pucker your mouth so bad you'd swear you'd been cursed. But after the frost, they turned sweet, soft, perfect. She'd collect wild persimmons from the trees near the old farm, ones the deer hadn't gotten to. She'd push them through a sieve to remove the seeds. Mix that orange pulp with flour, sugar, eggs, milk, butter, and spices. The batter looked strange, too loose, too orange. But when it baked, it transformed. Dense, moist, dark, almost like a cross between pudding and cake. She'd serve it warm with whipped cream, or cold the next day with coffee. It tasted like fall, and winter had a baby. Sweet, earthy, spiced, with a flavor you couldn't quite name because most people had never tasted wild persimmons. This was Appalachian cooking, Midwestern cooking, the kind of dessert you made because persimmon trees were free and sugar was expensive. City people didn't understand it, but country families knew. This pudding was tradition. This was using what the land gave you. 21. Chess pie. Your grandmother made this when the pantry was almost empty, because chess pie was a miracle. Eggs, sugar, butter, a splash of vinegar or lemon juice. That's it. No fancy ingredients, no exotic spices. She'd whisk it all together, pour it into a pie shell, bake it until the top cracked and turned golden. What came out was pure magic. The filling set into something custardy, sweet, rich, with a thin, crackly top that shattered when you cut into it. Some people said chess pie came from chess pie because it kept so well. Some said it came from just pie, said with a southern accent. Some said it came from cheese pie, even though there's no cheese in it. Nobody really knew, and nobody really cared, because this pie was survival. This was what you made during the Depression when you had eggs from your chickens and nothing else. This was making something delicious from almost nothing. Your grandmother served it at every holiday. Sometimes she'd add a tablespoon of cornmeal to give it texture. Sometimes she'd add vanilla, but mostly she kept it simple, because chess pie didn't need improvement. 22. Tom and Jerry cocktail. Your great-grandfather had a special bowl just for this drink. A ceramic Tom and Jerry bowl set, with a big serving bowl and little matching cups. His father gave it to him, and before that, his grandfather owned it. Tom and Jerry was like Eggnog's wild cousin, hot, boozy, frothy. He'd separate eggs, beat the whites until stiff, beat the yolks with sugar and warm spices, cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice, fold the whites into the yolks. That was the batter. When someone wanted a drink, he'd scoop batter into a cup, add a shot of rum, a shot of brandy, fill it with hot milk or hot water, stir. The result? A hot, sweet, spiced drink that tasted like Christmas and danger mixed together. This drink went back to the 1820s. It was named after characters in a British book. By the time it got to your great-grandfather, it was a winter tradition. He'd only make it between Thanksgiving and New Year's, never outside that window, and he'd guard that batter bowl like a treasure. Because some traditions require the right equipment, and the next cookie came from somewhere far away. 23. Pfeffernüsse cookies. Your German great-grandmother brought this recipe with her across the ocean. Pfeffernüsse means pepper nuts, which sounds terrible until you taste them. These cookies were small, round, dense, spiced with cinnamon, cloves, cardamom, ginger, white pepper, and anise. She'd mix the dough, let it age for days in a cool place, then roll it into tiny balls and bake them until they were hard. When they came out, she'd toss them in powdered sugar while they were still warm. They looked like little snowballs, and they tasted like Christmas. Spicy, sweet, complex, with a little bite of pepper that surprised you. You couldn't eat just one. They were small enough that you'd pop 3 or 4 before you realized it. She'd make them by the hundreds, store them in tins, and they'd last for weeks, getting better as they aged. This was old-world baking, the kind of cookie you made in Germany for centuries. The kind that survived immigration and depression and war because the recipe was written in your grandmother's memory. She taught your mother taught you, and now, every Christmas, you make tiny pepper nuts and remember a woman you never met. 24. Salt-rising bread. Your great-grandmother made bread without yeast, not sourdough, not baking powder, salt-rising. She'd scald milk, mix it with cornmeal and salt. Let it sit in a warm place overnight. By morning it would smell terrible, like old gym socks, like cheese gone wrong. That meant it was working, because salt-rising bread didn't use yeast. It used wild bacteria from the air, the same bacteria that makes cheese smell funky. She'd add flour, knead it, let it rise again, slowly. Then she'd bake it. What came out of the oven was incredible, dense, chewy, with a flavor that was tangy and complex and completely different from yeast bread. It tasted like the past, like pioneer women making bread on the prairie when they couldn't get yeast, like Appalachian grandmothers who knew secrets city people forgot. Most people didn't make this anymore by your grandmother's time. Too unpredictable, too smelly. But she kept making it, every Christmas, every holiday, because this bread connected her to her mother, to her grandmother, to women who survived with nothing but flour, salt, and stubbornness. One bite and you tasted 100 years of history. 25. Candied grapefruit peel. Your great-grandmother didn't waste anything, not even the part of the fruit you were supposed to throw away. When she bought grapefruit, which was rare and special during the Depression, she'd eat the fruit. Then she'd take those thick peels, cut them into strips, and turn them into candy. She'd boil the peels 3 times to remove the bitterness. Then she'd simmer them in sugar syrup until they turned translucent. Roll them in sugar. Let them dry. What you got was chewy, sweet, with just enough bitter citrus bite to keep it interesting. These were fancy. People paid good money for candied citrus peel in stores, but your great-grandmother made them from garbage. She'd pack them in tins, give them as gifts, serve them after Christmas dinner with coffee, and people thought she'd bought them from a candy shop. This was Depression-era genius. This was looking at an orange peel or a grapefruit rind and seeing possibility instead of trash. It was the same mindset that got families through hard times. Nothing wasted, everything used, creativity born from necessity. Your great-grandmother made these until she was too old to stand at the stove. 25 recipes, 25 dishes that tasted like home, like history, like love stirred into flour and sugar. Your grandparents made these with their hands. They made them when times were hard, when money was tight, when the only warmth in the house came from the oven. They made them because food was how you said, "I love you," when words didn't work. Food was how you connected to the people who came before. Food was memory you could taste. And somewhere along the way, we forgot. We got busy, we got modern, we got convinced that faster was better, that boxed was easier, that store-bought was fine. But these recipes? They're still here, waiting, written in faded handwriting on index cards, typed on yellowed paper, whispered through phone calls with aunts who still remember. My grandmother was right. This is how we remember who we are. So this Christmas, pick one, just one. Make your great-grandmother's Divinity Candy, or your grandfather's Eggnog, or that weird Aspic your family always argued about. Make it because it connects you to people you never met, because it tastes like a time when things moved slower, because your kids should know that green bean casserole isn't the only thing worth making. And when you take that first bite, close your eyes, because you're not just tasting food, you're tasting time. Drop a comment and tell me which recipe your family made, which one you miss, which one you're going to bring back this year, because these recipes deserve to live, and so do the people who made them.